Welcome. I'm Meredith. This is the Oasis Spiritual Empowerment Tarot, all about tarot, oracle, and empowering you. And tonight, I have a really, really special deck to share with you. This is the Surfer's Paradise Tarot, and it is by Sagus93. Now, I originally started filming an unboxing, and decided not to go with that. And then I thought maybe I'll do a deep dive with it. But I didn't want to wait any longer to share this deck. This is a really, really special deck. And it was requested that I do a kind of in-depth Thoth video. So that's coming up. This is a Thoth-based deck. Even if you're RWS all the way, take a look at this deck because it's so special. All right, so that said, let's get right in. So we have the deck, and we also have this huge, fabulous book. Now, I did start reading it already. May be surprised if you're not new here. If you are new, or even if you're not, remember to like, share, and subscribe. Hit the bell so you get alerted when I post new videos. So, right, if you are familiar at all with Aleister Crowley, look, the man was never going to win kindest person awards, right? It just really wasn't. But if you have any interest in any kind of Western mysticism or magical practices, you've been influenced by him, whether you know it or not. I mean, his reach is just extreme, and he was brilliant. So this isn't about whether or not he was super or nice or somebody you want to hang out with. But even his biggest critics have to acknowledge the tremendous work that he gave us. So, anyway, onto the book. We have a lot of quotes from Crowley. I love part one is surfing in theory and practice, which I can only imagine is play on magic in theory and practice, which I appreciate. So we have a foreword, the genesis of the surfer's paradise. Who is the surfer? Wisdom of pure foolishness, the abyss, pure heart, inner smile, self-irony, fear of death, equilibrium. So this section is basically creating the foundation for you to go further. Now, the author, who I have to say is not a native English speaker, and they did write this in English, and you wouldn't know. You know what I'm saying? It's wonderfully done. So if you've ever read anything by Crowley, you will understand that he has a certain tone that's perhaps not the most endearing for most people. This author, not always, but is very reminiscent of Crowley in a lot of ways. It's not a bad thing. It's just a thing, right? I think that when you've attained a certain level of knowledge and understanding, you have to be careful of your tone because it's very easy to kind of slip into one that can seem a little bit arrogant, perhaps. I'm not calling the creator arrogant. I'm just there's hints that just remind me in the same way of Crowley. And I don't think that it's intentional. I don't think it's bad. It just is the way it is. So I'm just kind of putting that out there. This is really well done, though. I mean, this is so well done. I can't even tell you. Anyway, part 2, we get into the symbolic universe, reinventing the wheel, the tree of life, nature of evidence, astrology notes, sacred geometry and other shapes, and the structure of the deck. Then we get into the tarot cards. We have symbolic maps and keys, cards that are not cards, because we have 2 extra cards. Then we have the majors, the minors, courts. Then we have an appendix about the Wheel of the Tarot. Another one where we actually have the full book of the law. Then there's an index of the cards and recommended literature. I'm sorry. I'm trying to think of how I want to. All right, this isn't going to be like a deep dive, so we're not going to get into it. There's a ton of really fabulous information in here. Personally, I think this is more than worth it just for the book. I absolutely do, and I'm going to tell you, even if you don't care for Thoth decks, even if you think Thoth isn't for me, I would really consider this deck. Both again, just for the book itself, and wait till you see the deck. But there's a lot of great information. It's just a lot. Then we get into the cards. And again, we're given, the symbols, what they mean. So we have that minor arcana cheat sheet. So there's a lot of information. Then we have the cards that are not cards. So these are the 2 cards. Then we get into the standard part of the deck. So we do have a full color image of the cards. And then we get, in this case, about 3 full pages of information about the cards. When we go into for the courts, we get again about 3 pages, and for the minors, roughly a page, sometimes a little more. So this deck, was on Kickstarter. It was taken off of Kickstarter. I'm not really going to get into it. I don't know. All I know is I have the deck, and I think this is a really powerful deck. So here's the box. It's beautiful. Sorry, I had hand cream on. This deck, look at that, is available. I will put a link in the description. If you email the creator, you'll be able to get it, or you should be able to. These are the backs. Look at how gorgeous. Now for size, it's a little taller than a standard tarot, a good bit wider. So it's kind of oracle sized. Love the gilding. Let's just get into the cards. And as we do, I'll just kind of discuss my thoughts, I guess. So, obviously, this is just, my personal thing. For me, when I talk about a Thoth deck, I talk about Crowley, right? That's the Thoth deck. Now, there are plenty of decks that are based on Thoth, and that's fine, but it's not the same, right? Even Ashera, which I love it so much, it's not quite the same. Ashera is a very emotional deck, and it's a beautiful, wonderful deck. But it doesn't... For a tarot, it's wonderful. For a standard, like, oh, let me do a reading, Ashera is fabulous. But Thoth is really meant to be a bit more than that. And I'll get into more of that when I do my Thoth video. But I say this to say this deck is the only other deck that I've ever encountered that meets that same level of power magically, if that makes sense. And instead of the Hanged Man, we get the Surfer, but when you flip it, we do have the Hanged Man. And the book goes into that and kind of explains the rationale for it. To me, this deck is important. It feels important. And generally speaking, not even generally, but before I encountered this deck, I would not have thought of using any other deck the way I use the Thoth Tarot. This deck is an exception. This is one that absolutely can be used in the same way. And I certainly never thought that the Thoth deck was lacking in any way. But this is just... I just can't even express how incredible this deck is. So I've had it... How long have I had it? I don't know. I'm really bad with time. Probably at least a week. And again, I really... You know what it is? I wanted to keep it to myself. That's really the upshot. It's like I didn't want to share it. I just wanted it all for me, which is so greedy, right? So I kind of compromised with myself. And even as I wanted to keep it to myself, I did want to share it. Because I think it needs and deserves to be shared. But I needed some time with it first. Now, when I do the Thoth deck, I'm actually, I think, going to compare this to Crowley's Thoth. But we'll see. We'll see. I got to figure out how to make it not too crazy long. And still pack in all the information that I want to pass on. So rather than get too in the weeds with this deck here, yeah, that's why I really just want to kind of show it. Now, if you have no interest in magical workings or spiritual movement, shall we say, I think you could still benefit from this, and I think absolutely you could use this as like a standard tarot. Thoth tarot. But that would kind of be like spending like $1 million to buy this really souped up sports car and just sort of drive it around the block 20 miles an hour once a week. You know what I mean? It's just my personal thing. And I'm not saying you shouldn't use it as a tarot. Absolutely, I just feel like there's so much more possible with this deck. And it, I'm pretty sure that the deck and book come together. I don't remember, but I don't think it was like a separate add-on. And the book is just a wonderful wealth of knowledge. And I think that if you're new to Thoth, I think this would be a great deck. I really, really do. Again, I haven't read the whole book, but what I've read so far, I've been very, very impressed in terms of the clarity that's given. And I think that the author is more approachable than Crowley. It's a little easier to digest. Again, he quotes from Crowley quite a bit. But does so beautifully. So it just adds. Oh, and I guess I should say that they did rename, so we have instead of Crowley's titles, we have father, mother, and then son and daughter, which I think probably would make it a little easier if you're new to Thoth as well. So I don't disagree with that, I mean, not that anybody's asking my opinion, but you know what I'm saying. I think that was probably a really good choice. I guess that's where I'm trying to go with that. I think they've been working on this for like 15 years or something. And I'm not surprised by that. So now go ahead and shuffle these. And they shuffle beautifully. The cardstock is fabulous. It's like a, I don't know if it's like a plasticky kind of, like a PVC maybe. I'm not sure. Feels like that. They feel very, very durable, which makes me happy because, you know, I need this deck in my life. Like, it needs to not go anywhere. So there's a little bit of a stretch for my big hands, but it's not, you know, it's not crazy. So let's pull one, and then we'll read, maybe not the whole thing, but we'll read a little bit from the book to give you an idea of what you could expect. Okay. So we have the Six of Swords, Science. Now, you do have the index of the card, so you can very quickly find your specific card. You know, so if you were using this and you just wanted to pull a card, okay. And this one's actually not too long because it's a minor. So we have one page. So we have Six of Swords, Science, the Lord of Earned Success, Mercury in Aquarius, 10 degrees to 20 degrees Aquarius, January 30th to February 8th. Mercury in Aquarius, seated in the house of the sun, presents the idea of air fully developed and perfectly harmonized. The perfect balance of all mental and moral faculties, hardly won and almost impossible to hold in an ever-changing world, declares the idea of science in its fullest interpretation. And that's a quote from Aleister Crowley. This is the attitude of a mind which precisely and accurately reflects its observations. 6 Tai Chi swords are arranged into a hexagram, symbol of macrocosm, understood as marriage of 2 opposing forces. In the hexagram of swords, we see another 6-pointed star, and in its center, the unicursal hexagram, the symbol of true will, microcosm projecting itself onto macrocosm. These symbols form the central hub of a net which spreads in all directions following an ordered pattern. All ideas and concepts connected into the encompassing hierarchy. Clear insight and accurate judgment, one of the best gifts that study and understanding of tarot can bestow on us. It really doesn't get any better than this when it comes to swords, and it will only go downhill from here. One of the greatest achievements of human mind is the recognition of its own limits. So, that just to give you a little peek into how it's written. I can't say enough about this deck, and I feel like I'm not saying a lot. Again, if you're interested in a more in-depth look, that will be coming when I do the Thoth video, and that's coming soon. I just feel like I need to kind of let this stand on its own first. But I can't stress enough how impressed I am by this deck, by the book, by the work that went into this, and yeah, this is so special, and I think that it can meet a lot of needs or desires. Definitely if you're more magically leaning or really looking at progressing spiritually, I think that this can be a very powerful tool in that regard. I think that if you just want an amazing tarot deck, and maybe increase your understanding or begin your understanding of Thoth, I think this is an amazing deck. Yeah. Yeah, and when I do my Thoth, we'll get into more of, I guess, an explanation about what I mean when I talk about kind of spiritual workings and magical workings with it. I think that, different people have different ideas, certainly, about these things. So this is just my approach. Certainly, it's not the only one. I'm not even claiming it's the best one. It's just mine. So, because it's mine, it's the best way for me, at least. And maybe it is for you, maybe it's not. That's okay. But I think it's important to take in a lot, right? Take in a lot of information and ideas so that you can best formulate your own, you know? It's like, imagine you were looking at a picture of an elephant. You've never seen one before, you just saw this picture, right? But the thing is, it's not a full picture. Maybe it's a picture of the feet, right? So you know what the foot of an elephant looks like, but that's all you have. And from that, you'll create your idea of what the whole creature might look like. But then imagine one day somebody shows you a picture of the head, and all of a sudden you see this crazy trunk and the huge tusks. Imagine how that might alter that picture in your mind. So I guess that's kind of my goal personally in life, is just to get as many pictures as I can to create that huge, beautiful picture for myself. And I encourage everybody to do that. But again, that's just my philosophy. But let me know what you think. Do you have this? I don't even know how many people backed it. But I really recommend it. And I don't really say that too often about decks. It's just really special. And I think it's an incredible deck. But let me know what you think. And if you're interested in my Thoth video, definitely make sure you're subscribed and hit the bell so you get alerted when I post it. It's coming soon. And until next time, just be wonderful to yourself. Be really, really wonderful, because you deserve the best, only the best, all the best, and that is my wish for you.